In the studio this morning, we've just been joined by the country's Minister of Internal Affairs, Lengo, who is the minister is here to talk about security matters, Yenga issue among other things. Good morning, Mr. Minister. It's a pleasure having you in our studio this morning.
Good morning, Samuel. It's a pleasure. Good morning, Marina.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, Mr. Minister, quite a lot is happening in the security sector, but just help Sierra Leoneans have a very clear picture as to the current state of security in Sierra Leone.
Well, generally, as you know, it's relatively okay. And when you look at what is happening globally, Sierra Leone, I think we're not doing badly. But of late, we've had issues of armed robbery, especially in the east and in Bo, where some of these things happen, especially during the rains. We have increasing criminality and crimes generally, but we're doing everything humanly possible. I mean, when you look at what's in Sierra Leone and compared to even New York, London, a lot of people tell me they feel more safe in Sierra Leone than even in New York, where someone will just pop up with a gun, and if you are in the wrong place at the wrong time, you're dead. And a lot of knife crimes in the UK. But in Sierra Leone, you know, occasionally we have some of these occurrences that we're trying to address. Generally, the security services, you know, working with the community, the people, and I think we are relatively safe.
You rightly mentioned the incidents in the eastern region, Kenema to be specific, and that of Bo, wherein a very senior state official, someone working for, I think, NAXA, also to speak, was involved in that robbery, events. But it sends a worrisome picture, say, particularly so for residents who are living in those communities, more so when in Kenema, a parish priest was involved, and in Bo, a very senior state official. It sends a worrying picture with regards to the state of security in those ends, Mr. Minister.
It does, and we're very concerned, and it worries some, not only for the people of that area, but for Sierra Leone generally, and of course for us as a government. So we have engaged the police leadership in those areas. I was in Bo, and I wanted to know what measures they have put in place, firstly, to quickly investigate and bring the perpetrators to book, and also to ensure safety and security to prevent future occurrences. And they've assured me that they will put proper measures in place. I mean, as a former police officer myself, we discussed some of the tactical and operational issues with respect to, say, you know, improved intelligence, improved community engagement and involvement, and also working with other security services, including the military, Office of National Security, so that they will improve on whatever they've been doing. The same in Kenema, and the Inspector General of Police was in South Africa attending the Interpol conference. As soon as he came back, I told him he should go to Bo and Kenema, and he did that yesterday. He went to Kenema, and he also engaged the police leadership in Bo so that they can put measures in place and for them to get the necessary resources and support to be able to carry out their mandates to prevent crime, to be proactive, and also to ensure that people are safe and they feel safe.
We'll have to talk on those measures that have been put in place, more so when in Freetown at night. Yeah. You see a lot of checkpoints across strategic part of the country.
Yes.
But in some areas where there used to be checkpoints, most of those checkpoints are no longer there. Is that part of the strategies of the Sierra Leone police? In other words, telling the people that, oh yes, this area seemed not safe before now, but now it seems safe. That's more the reason why the checkpoints were being taken off from those areas.
Well, we have to play a balancing act, Samuel. When you have too many checkpoints, people complain.
Absolutely.
When you have too little checkpoints, people complain. But we're doing what we call intelligence-led policing. So the intelligence will inform us where we should mount checkpoints. For those areas where you don't see checkpoints, maybe the time you go there, if it's a little early in the night, but maybe late in the night. So you have movable checkpoints. They could put them, in any place where they think it's necessary so that you could check people. But, it's not really easy policing because we are in a democratic state. Whatever we do, people complain about too much policing and sometimes too little policing. So we have to play the balancing act. It's really challenging, but we're doing everything possible. As you yourself know, Freetown is relatively safe. We have adopted, when I was in the police, one thing I did was to have young people, youths in the areas, in their areas. We call them community safety volunteers. And these people sort of assist and support the police. They were identified, people of good character. We took them to the training school. We gave them some crash training so that they don't perpetrate jungle justice. So if anybody is arrested in their area, they should be handed over to the police. So we've taken all of those measures, including, of course, having 900 police emergency network across all the networks. As we said, QCell, Orange. If you call them, they will be able to respond, and then they will send a police patrol, and the nearest police patrol to any scene of incident within Freetown.
Kurma did mention about the issue of safety, of which you've spoken about, Mr. Minister, but many citizens still feel confused about the issue of Yenga. Could you maybe explain why, despite several agreements since 2002, Yenga is still under the Guinean presence? You may want to speak to please.
Yeah, definitely. It's an enigma. When you think about our relationship with Guinea, and when you think about Yenga, it's actually, for you to visualize what we are talking about and why we're really surprised that Guinea is so adamant about Yenga. Yenga is about 300 square meters, right? To put it in proper perspective, it's like 3 football fields put together. And our troops are deployed in Sokoma and Pengo Bengu. They are like surrounded. They are in that enclave, and they can't move out of there. And you ask yourself, why the Guineans are so adamant? Everybody knows documentation. When you look at, the treaties, that Yenga, even when you Google, it will tell you Yenga is a village in Sierra Leone. It's a fishing and farming village, right? But why are they so adamant? In the first place, we know that it's a trading post. A lot of goods coming from Sierra Leone go to Guinea through Yenga because it's a crossing point, and people are benefiting from it. The Guineans, the military, because they impose tax on our people and the goods that are crossing over there. So we think that's one reason. But the other reason, I think, is that, we really should be very careful. That is why, as the government, we're very cautious. We know what we're doing. We want to ensure that this issue is solved diplomatically, because it could be an existential threat. And let me clarify that. For those people who are not born or who are too young to understand what happened during our civil war, which lasted for 10 years, and we only ended that when we went to the table, and then we had the Lomé Peace Accord before peace could come. But what happened during that time? Those areas are very productive. We had our coffee, cocoa, diamonds. So they were grabbed, and for our minerals, everything was carted away, in terms of, the diamond, until the Kimberley process was put in place to restrict the export of what we call blood diamonds, and the trade in our timber and coffee and cocoa was blocked and stopped before the rebels could come to. So what I'm thinking is that Yenga could just be a small screen and people stoking so that there could be conflict, and our target is our minerals generally. I mean, when you look at what is happening in other countries, DR Congo, Sudan, even in Libya, those countries are in shambles today because of their mineral wealth. I mean, when you get into conflict, people start selling you arms. What do you trade for the arms? Your minerals, right? And then they will take your minerals away and pay you pittance. And they pay only probably for you to buy weapons to kill yourself and to kill other people, and then you prolong the war. Yes. So these are the issues, I mean, we really need to be very careful about with respect to the Yenga. But I think the Guineans are not looking at it that way, and they only think, they can intimidate us and try to hold onto Yenga unnecessarily.
I mean, like you did mention, how much of this dispute is about security or land and resources? Why are we still having this issue with the Guineans?
Maybe you can ask them, because they are in a better position really to say that. But what I'm saying is that they are not looking at the bigger picture. Today, when you look at the modern conflicts, it's really all about how other powers can get hold of your minerals for free. Today, our people are really enjoying, when you look at those communities where we are mining, especially iron ore, the surface rents that have been paid, the CRD, community development funds, they're huge, And, Samuel and Marina, when you are at war, right, you even forget about other developments. You forget about healthcare, you forget about feeding yourself, you forget about building roads, you forget about building other infrastructure. So we don't want to go that lane. That's why we think the diplomatic path is the best way to go. It is arduous, it is painful, but it's more sustainable.
You've just painted a picture with regards to the question Marina asks as to what triggers war in many instances, and what Sierra Leone had gone through in terms of its brutal civil war that that country once experienced. But one would say the situation seems different as to what's happening in Yenga, and the diplomacy that we've propelled over time to say it's the only means, it seems to have failed, more so when we're now chairing ECOWAS. Mind you, the high-power delegation, the expected delegation in Sierra Leone, including yourself, who led that team, went there, and you are not given the required respect you deserve as officials from our end. It seems extremely disrespectful to us.
Well, I beg to differ.
Because we made to understand.
No, I beg to differ.
We made to understand. We made to understand the team from Sierra Leone were halted by Guinean soldiers on that end.
No, that's not true.
Well, paint us a real picture as to what actually happened there.
Okay, let me explain what happened. In pursuit of peace and for our country to have sustained peace and respect, we really want to give kudos to His Excellency the President, who is now chair of the Authority of Head of States. The head of states of ECOWAS decided that the issue of Yenga should be solved should be resolved peacefully and diplomatically. So they sent a fact-finding mission. The fact-finding team came to Sierra Leone and they requested to visit Kwendo, not actually Yenga at the time, because they said they wanted to talk to the stakeholders and they also wanted to talk to the affected people so that they could get a better understanding of the Yenga issue. So as Minister of Internal Affairs, representing my colleague, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, who was out of the country on official assignment, I was asked to work to facilitate their movement in Sierra Leone, to ensure that they have unhindered access to people, places, and information. So they got a lot of information, talking to people in Freetown, other security sector leads, and then we went to Yenga. They talked to the chiefs, the local people, the affected people, and then they said, since it was much easier to go to Yenga from our side, they wanted to see if they could visit Yenga, the disputed area. So initially the commander who is deployed in the Guinean side was contacted by his counterpart in Sierra Leone. And he said yes, he could give them access so that they could go to Yenga.
Was that the case?
Wait. So, but when we get to Pegu Bengu, which is the boundary between Yenga and where our forces are deployed, then he changed his mind. He said no, because he does not have authorization for the team to go to the disputed area. These are diplomats. They are not like ECOWAS with guns and everything. They said, okay, if that's the case, then let us don't force to go there. Let us just observe Yenga from the vantage post or position where we are in Sierra Leone, and then they will go back, eventually contact Guinea. When they visit Guinea, they will now come to Yenga, through the Guinean side, because they will now request to visit. But the visit was purely for Sierra Leone. So from Pegubengu, they saw the baking that they had illegally constructed. We went to Sokoma, from there. It's a high rise. You can even see into,
absolutely.
You've been there before,
Absolutely.
not so Samuel. You can see Nongowa, a big town or city in Guinea. And then you can see Yenga, from there. So they saw all of that. They talked to the people in Sokoma. They talked to the people in Pengobengu. And they had some closed-door meetings with other people they wanted to talk to. So they put in their reports together. They're going back and report to the authority of head of state. So when people say, oh, they were blocked, no. They were just said, no, we cannot now allow you to come. And, the team said, okay, that's fine. So we'll go back and put our report together.
So, Minister, this is not the first time that a team from Sierra Leone has been blocked. But again, worrisome to note, this seems an affront to one of the key 4-point priority agenda of President Bio as chairman of ECOWAS, one of which has to do with revitalizing regional security cooperation. It seems an affront to say a team from Sierra Leone has arrived in that locality and they want to see ways to pass through. And then Guineans say, no, we cannot allow. Even when authorities from Mano River Union and that of ECOWAS were part of that team, including our very own ministers in Sierra Leone. They were not allowed, Mr. Minister. Won't you say that seems an affront to the leadership of even ECOWAS?
Well, yes or no. But the issue is we have to put it in its perspective with respect to how the Guineans are thinking. And we also look at the issue of sovereignty. And when you look at peace, I mean, our president has always been preaching peace, even in the United Nations, in ECOWAS. You cannot be preaching peace and you actually want to draw daggers. He's a former soldier, he's not afraid of fighting, but he's tasted that. But even when we fought, 10 years, at the end of the day, let's go back, let's go to the table. Everything ended there. So why can't we continue to pursue peace so that nobody dies and no destruction of property is caused? And we come from that. I come from that area. I'm a Gizi myself, as you may know. So we are personally affected, but our people do understand. They've been through that before. What they tell us and what they tell me is that even though the issue is still challenging, they want this matter to be resolved peacefully. So we hear them and we're working. I think these are processes. Like I said again, it takes time, it is arduous, it is painful, but we want to go down that lane because we don't want our people to suffer unnecessarily and by implication, the country of Sierra Leone.
Yenga may just happen to be one, Mr. Minister. I'd wanted to ask this question earlier, but how secured are other borders, other border crossing points to other countries?
Well, the other borders, as we say, they are porous, and it's really challenging. But the ultimate goal for ECOWAS and for Africa is really a borderless Africa. That's our aim. And we want to make sure that, some of these, I call them foolish borders, drawn by our colonial masters to keep us divided. And why should we really keep holding on those borders? Because most of the people, like in Yenga, you're talking about the Kisses, we have them in Lofa County, we have them in Guinea and in Sierra Leone. They are intermarriages. In fact, some people go to school from Liberia and Guinea they come to Sierra Leone to almost do everything. And our brothers and sisters, I have families in Guinea. The boundaries just divided us. So some of our cousins and everybody, they're in Guinea and we are in Sierra Leone. It's funny. We need to break those boundaries and those barriers. In fact, that's one reason why ECOWAS is coming up with what you call one-stop center, and they have started in Gendema. We visited, the ECOWAS team was there, and in fact, they pleaded to the ECOWAS mission so that they could fast-track and facilitate the construction of the one-stop center where Liberia will be, Sierra Leone, all the services together, so that there could be free movement of people, goods and services. So these are the dreams for those other areas, and we hope Guinea will also come on board. So even this issue of Yenga, the issue at Balamuya will be resolved that way.
You did mention that you also have relatives in between Sierra Leone and Guinea, and I'm sure you're quite aware that, a lot of trade is being done in between Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Liberia, so to speak. And as it is now, there are a lot of people that are constrained or concerned with the current issue. You also just mentioned about the plans of the ECOWAS, but how soon will that be, considering, the challenges people are facing at the moment?
Yeah, with respect to Yenga, the traders, in fact, they were also interviewed, and they told us that they will hold back their goods and they are prepared to suffer, and that's the price, if that's the price they have to pay for peace and for their own safety and security, they are prepared to do so. And that is what is happening presently. But like you said, it's affecting their livelihood. And so I want to take this opportunity to appeal to humanitarian bodies, institutions, nationally and internationally, to see how they can help, especially the displaced people from Yenga and those directly affected, because their livelihoods are affected. We are in the rains, and schools are reopening and all of that. So, but they are also prepared to pay the price for peace and for their safety.
Mr. Minister, you may want to maybe give us an update of the diplomatic relationship between Sierra Leone and Guinea, considering all this.
Maybe you need to have my colleague, my counterpart, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Alhaji,
like you can still speak in
Timothy Kava.
We'll definitely
yes, to come so that he will answer those questions. Maybe I'm in charge of internal affairs. I'm talking about internal issues.
You can also speak on that, being the fact that you're the Minister of Internal Affairs and you have been moving around and you understand what's on ground.
Yeah, you see, we have a military government now in Guinea. When there is a civilian government, the relationship sometimes is much more cordial and better than when you have a military government. You know, a bit sensitive. I mean, the way they look at things, they sometimes a bit jittery. We also probably think that Yenga could just be a distraction, you know, because when you have a government and people are talking about human rights, talking about other issues, you want to reduce that pressure on you, you want to push it somewhere else. So Yenga could just be a distraction, you know, so that I mean, the military, the other people will focus, oh, well, Guinea, Sierra Leone, one can invade Guinea, and they want to fight us. So they mobilize the soldiers, and the soldiers will forget about what is happening in Conakry and want to concentrate on what is happening in Yenga. So all of these things. But then my colleague minister can talk to that better, really.
Essentially, even with the issues you mentioned that are happening in Guinea, one will say, yes, their economy seems extremely stable as compared to where democracy prevails in Sierra Leone.
And they are one of the largest mining endowed countries in terms of mineral, even in terms of rare mineral. I mean, if you're following up what is happening globally, now people think there is this kind of mineral that is in Guinea, for which China has the monopoly. And now other countries are, you know, coming to Guinea to try and get hold of that mineral. So when you look at the aluminium, it's the largest aluminium producer, and they smelt, and you know, aluminium in Guinea. So they have money, you know. They are better endowed in terms of resources than Sierra Leone. And it's a bigger country. I mean, let's be frank and be realistic and objective. Guinea is a far bigger country, twice as big as Sierra Leone, twice bigger than Sierra Leone. So where you have people, you have resources, is always better. You know, when you take other countries like Ghana. But mind you, you know, our development was reversed for 30 years when we had the war. When people said, after the war, they said we had reversed 30 years. So we are now building and trying to catch up. So it's really challenging for us. Everything for us are priorities: health, water, education, food, you know, you name it. And all of these areas are competing for the very small resources that we have. So even when progress is being made, huge progress in all aspects of life in Sierra Leone, you know, it seems the impact is not being felt, but we are sure, you know, by the end of 4 or 5 years from now, you know, we'll see we've started seeing the difference.
We'll soon go for sports, but Marina did mention the aspects of Sierra Leone having many porous borders.
Yes.
And I remember even before we arrive at this point that we are as a country in terms of what's happening in Yenga. Similar situation is also the same for many other districts wherein we do share border with other countries, Guinea and Liberia, say specific.
Yeah.
Is it high time we re-strategize? I mean, the country re-strategizes its border control mechanisms just so that a reoccurrence of what's currently happening in Yenga is not replicated, say for instance in Falaba,
yeah,
and even kind of.
Yeah, definitely. So in fact, what we are using this opportunity to put most of all of these infractions, together as a package, and then we'll also discuss them subsequently. But we want to take first care of the elephant in the room, which is Yenga. Once that is taken away, then we'll look at those other issues. We're not having much problem with Liberia. I mean, there was an issue in Lofa County. I called my counterpart in Liberia. In fact, he came down there and told them, listen, this area you contesting, you're talking about, belongs to Sierra Leone. I went to school in Sierra Leone, and I'm part Sierra Leonean, I'm part Liberian, so forget about it. So he solved that problem even before, people knew that there was an issue. So that's what is happening. And those are the sort of engagement we want. But with Guinea, probably because one, it's a military government now, it's not a civilian government, and two, they are francophone and we are anglophone. That's a bit of a challenge. But the vision is really borderless, as we have said. If we achieve that, they will stop about, putting controls, measures here and there. ECOWAS will come with one-stop shop, and then we'll try to reduce the many porous borders. But again, like I said, we're preparing a dossier for ECOWAS so that they can look at those other infractions.
As we try to wrap up this segment, how do you respond to critics who say, Sierra Leone has been too soft in handling this whole issue between us and Guinea with regards to Yenga?
I can say that we've only been very cautious and reasonable, and any responsible government, should try as much as possible to maintain peace, to protect its people, and not to push things so that there can be open conflict. And like I said again, I've been saying it again, conflict is not good. At the end of the day, you come back to the table to resolve the issue. And we've seen countries that we are really doing extremely very well. Say, for instance, Libya, Iraq, they are in shambles today because they could not resolve some of their issues. And for us, we have a history. We've learned from our civil war that after all of everything that we did, we had to go to Leone to have peace. And interestingly, when I was talking about minerals, when Fode Sanko wanted to bring to adhere and to sign up, he said he should be in charge of all the minerals in Sierra Leone. Which shows that really they were fighting to cut away our wealth. And we don't want to give that opportunity to anybody because that's God-given for Sierra Leone, and we want our people to benefit from it like it has started. Some people may not like the kind of contracts that the country is going into, for the benefits of the people. Before now, I said most of those contracts were predatory contracts. It was benefiting those coming to cut away more than our people. So if you give the excuse for going to conflict, that will be an excuse for them to stop paying you, and even you continue benefiting. So we are a very responsible government. We know what we're doing, and we're doing it consciously for our people.
Mr. Minister, we've had a number of messages, but quickly, Sierra Leoneans seem worried about the use of small arms and ammunition by citizens in carrying out these ill activities in communities. What are the strategies to combat same?
Yeah, well, luckily, small arms, or now we call the Arms and Ammunition Commission, is under my ministry. Absolutely. And they are working out a strategy to see how they can take out most of these illegal weapons. We are working also, they are working with the police, and luckily because we meet in the leadership meetings, we discuss some of these issues. So we also want to appeal to the people of this country generally, so that let them give us information, because the police or the security services can work more effectively where the citizens cooperate and work with them with information, because some people know. I mean, even when you go to the villages, they know who is hiding these weapons, and if your neighbor, you know, that you're living in the house with somebody and he or she has a gun, I mean, you should really let us know if it's not held lawfully. But then again, I'm also talking to the security services so that, I mean, people can trust them to improve their level of trust and dependability.
Are you so far thrilled, or are you so far pleased with the manner at which the security sector generally in country has handled the issue of drugs, the proliferation of drugs in the country?
Yeah, but yes, when you look at what had happened previously and where we are now, especially with respect to Kush, I mean, it has come down considerably. And people, in fact, because of the measures that we have put in place, targeting the suppliers and to cut off the supply chain, it's more expensive now. People have gone back to tramadol. So we're now trying to get another strategy around that so that we can also take out tramadol. But the strategy really is to take out, especially the middlemen. I mean, if you see, I've spoken to those who are enforcing the drugs law. I mean, that sits with me as well. And we started seizing property, and we started seizing even vehicles. And we have a number of cases now that are in court, and we will be asking for the maximum sentence, especially for the traffickers and the dealers and the manufacturers, which is life imprisonment. So if the judiciary can help us impose those sentences, there will be a very big deterrent, you know, because if they are giving life sentences, they just say, okay, they slap them on the back of the hand, and then you go back to normal business, got a lot of money in it. So we're working closely, and we are entreating, because the judiciary is independent, but if we present a very good case, and the prosecutors say, we want to go for confiscation of the property and life imprisonment, that can also help. But generally, the police are doing well. But I want to appeal to members of the public that some of these dealers are in our communities. So please let them give us information so that we can take them out. I also want to take this opportunity to talk to young people that they should have a dream, you know, and underpin those dreams with values such as self-discipline. In self-discipline, part of saying, no, I cannot take drugs because I want to be somebody tomorrow. So if that helps, and then they don't get involved in drugs, one, nobody buys, and then two, nobody can sell, then, and of course, we get the community and people helping with information, we can solve the drug problem easily.
Before we take some messages via Facebook page, Mr. Minister, what has been done in order to strengthen the presence of RSLAF members within our borders? The military men or personnel within our borders, what has been done to strengthen their presence within the borders?
Okay, well, they are deployed strategically in areas where they are supposed to be deployed. I mean, that's what I can say to that, yeah.
You want to take messages?
Let's just take two, maybe.
Yep. Take.
Yes, please. This one is from Mark 10, and he's saying, Mr. Minister, how will you engage with ECOWAS, which recently assessed border operations at the Sierra Leone Guinea crossing to support a peaceful resolution to the dispute? Also, how does the ministry plan to address regional security concerns and prevent the spread of instability in the region? And that's coming from Mark 10 of New England View.
I think Amadou Kagbo says war is not the solution because neither side, nor Guinea will win. It's only the civilians that will suffer. Who would have thought that the Russia will still be fighting Ukraine with all their might? I think those are the messages we take. We have many messages, but just respond to these messages and we see ways to wrap up.
They are very positive, and I think they are actually also in support of what I'm saying. Like, Russia going to war over land. And of course, they know Ukraine is a very mineral-rich country. And of course, with ECOWAS, that's why we are engaging them. And luckily, thankfully, His Excellency the President is the chairman of the authority. He's in the driving seat. So he's trying to push our issues through ECOWAS so that we can have peace and regional peace. You know, Sierra Leone wants to be the global leader in peace. So that's why we do everything possible so that we promote peace, even in the Security Council and the AU.
Thank you so very much, Minister.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure having us this morning.
Pleasure is mine also.
It's always a pleasure. We know
Yeah,
today.
thank you. Wake up.
We know today is a public holiday, but you've taken the time to be part of us.
Yeah, it's good for us because I think we have a better, wider listenership because a lot of people are at home today, and I hope they heard what we have said, and they will also help us in the security services to promote peace, safety, and security. By the way, before I leave, we have a vision in the ministry. We're doing our strategic plan. We have done regional consultation on it. We have a very big vision and dream, which is making Sierra Leone the safest place to be in the world, and want to see how each and every Sierra Leonean can collectively, can consciously, and all of us collectively, you know, contribute to that vision. So that, I mean, when that happens, a lot of people want to come to Sierra Leone, tourists, business people to invest, you know, so we can boom and we can be, you know, countries that we dream of better even than Rwanda, Indonesia, and those other countries we call the Eastern Tigers, you know, which is growing, you know, very rapidly in terms of development and everything. So thank you very much for having me, and also, you know, for helping us to reach out to the people out there, for them to know what we are doing, our policies, our visions, etc. Thank you, Samuel. Thank you, Marina. Beautiful Marina, right?
Thank you. Thanks for being here this morning.
Yes, thank you.
This is where we end today's edition of Wake Up Sierra Leone.